Bitcoin's the solution to nonprofits. And for governments, traditionally people have thought, well, the government doesn't like or won't embrace Bitcoin, but they will embrace Bitcoin because Bitcoin provides them with the financial power to thrive in the 21st century. And there's no government on earth that doesn't appreciate the power of money, right? This will allow them to lower taxes. It will allow them to strengthen their currencies, defend their sovereignty, improve their economies, join the global community, and delight their citizens.
Michael Saylor, the founder and executive chairman of MicroStrategy, recently impressed the crowd at the Bitcoin Atlantis conference in Madeira, Portugal, a growing cryptocurrency center and haven for cryptocurrency enthusiasts. Saylor, an influential figure in the cryptocurrency industry, spoke to a varied group of investors, business executives, and cryptocurrency supporters, offering his thoughts on Bitcoin in an exciting and compelling instruction. The conference, organized by FREE Madeira, a local nonprofit organization dedicated to providing financial education, showcased influential keynote addresses and fireside chats from some of the industry's best personalities. Saylor revealed that he was personally invited by President Albuquerque to speak at the event, and he lived up to expectations by delivering a characteristic speech titled, "Bitcoin is for Everyone." Speaking fervently to an excited audience, Saylor shared his bold predictions for the direction of Bitcoin. In 2024 and beyond, he sees Bitcoin being adopted by billions of people, hundreds of millions of families, and a large number of elite financial organizations like BlackRock. The billionaire businessman believes that the approval of spot Bitcoin ETFs has unleashed pent-up demand and new investments from a wide range of investors, including major investment firms, banks, nonprofit organizations, and even governments worldwide. This is the reason behind the sudden surge in adoption. The Bitcoin Atlantis conference, which comes to an end today, will live on as a forum that brought influential figures in the cryptocurrency sector together and encourage conversations on the direction of digital assets. Remember to subscribe for daily videos like this. Let's hear what he has to say.
You can't attract capital without Bitcoin, and you can't outperform. Bitcoin is going to outperform the S&P and gold and bonds, and as it outperforms, everyone who's indifferent and objective, who doesn't know what it is and doesn't care, right? They're going to just say, move more of my money over here, because the world's full of people that would just like to not lose their money. What we're going to see is investment companies need this to outperform, and that's going to result in them generating income, and that results in them staying relevant, right? I mean, how many people are bragging about their, new gold ETF, right? It's not relevant. It's not relevant. You want to be a leader, right? The people that we look to are the people that discovered or created Google and Apple and Microsoft, and they create the next airplane, and they put Starlink in the sky, and they give us internet, and they give us the next phone, right? Be relevant, be a leader. These companies want to be leaders. Right? You won't find a CEO that says, my aspiration is to be viewed as a follower and late to the next great thing. And they all want to create shareholder value, right? You can't create shareholder value by shrinking. And so that takes us to operating companies. It's the same thing. But operating companies, for the most part in the world, are like type 1 diabetics. I had 100 competitors over 20 years. They all failed. There's a 99% mortality rate with these companies, right? You look at the number and you're like, well, I don't know 300 million companies. That's because they're failing millions every single month. They're all failing all the time. Why are they failing? They can't store energy. They can't harness capital, right? What does Facebook do? They give all their capital back to the shareholders in a dividend and a buyback. What does Apple do? They give their capital back in a dividend and a buyback. They take on debt. How do companies fail? They leverage up, they take on debt. What happens when you take on debt? Well, I used to say to people, well, we have 500 million in capital, we could go for 40 quarters. We could go for 10 years and not make any money and we'll still be in business. It's like you could go for 10 years and not eat and still be alive. That's indestructible. On the other hand, when you give all the money back and you borrow $1 billion, well, in that case, you end up with a debt covenant and you have to generate $27 million this quarter. And if you generate $26 million this quarter, if you miss by 1/1000th of your capital structure, if you miss by 0.1%, you actually trip all the debt covenants and the bank owns you. You're technically in violation of your debt. They can call the loan, you're insolvent. So think about the difference difference between you starving to death if you miss one meal versus you starving to death when you haven't eaten for the year, okay? That's the difference between having capital and having no capital. The status quo in the world today is we tell people you can't keep capital in an operating company because all of the uses, all the liquid capital is dilutive and it doesn't beat the cost of capital. Bitcoin solves the problem. You can harness capital, you can improve your products, you can grow your revenues, you can beat inflation for the first time. You know, the Magnificent Seven are good investments. The other 493 companies are not, because the other 493 companies cannot beat inflation. Because beating inflation means increasing your cash flow 8% every year forever, or more like raising your prices 10% a year forever.
Michael Saylor made a strong argument in the first part of his speech. An average rise of 10% per year is an endless possibility. But the most important thing he said was this: Bitcoin has no enemies, and the community has no enemies. This claim has a lot of weight, since it implies that even those who are currently skeptical about Bitcoin will eventually become involved participants in the development of the cryptocurrency. Saylor claims that every avenue in the financial world eventually leads to Bitcoin. Saylor argues furiously that the future of Bitcoin will be characterized by a growing number of players, claiming that it is the digital asset and the unavoidable future of international banking. Saylor assigns the hesitation of business leaders and investing giants to their ingrained belief in conventional financial paradigms or a lack of knowledge of Bitcoin. His belief that eventually these people will come to see how pointless it is to oppose Bitcoin and will become its supporters. Saylor believes more corporations would realize it would be foolish to ignore Bitcoin when it hits multi-billion-dollar milestones, is accepted by more nations, and gains support from institutions such as BlackRock. Saylor presents the trip as an unavoidable development that leads from rejection to skeptic, trader, investor, and ultimately a fully fledged maximalist. Here are more from Saylor's important speech to give you a better understanding of his viewpoint.
And so what does Bitcoin offer them? Extended lifespan. You see a CEO and you say, well, you're going to adopt Bitcoin. He says, why should I? Say, well, it might keep your company from going bankrupt in 10 years. It might allow you to continue to do business and serve your customers for the next 100 years. How many companies are 100 years old? Not many. I'll ask you another question. How many famous education institutions with endowments are 100 years old? Most of them, right? Why is it that universities last 100 years and companies don't? No capital. That's why. You think anybody goes in business wanting to die? You think they want to have their company fail in 12 years or 6 years or 25 years? No, they're stuck in a system, right? They're stuck in a traditional system that makes them do this. Banks have the same issue. They want to attract and retain capital. They want to decrease risk. You know, you could say, well, you know, the bank is beholden to the central bank. Well, here's another vision. What about 100,000 banks that are all tapped into the Bitcoin network and they don't have to worry about the Bitcoin network shutting them down, right? When a bank joins Bitcoin, it becomes systemically robust, much more anti-fragile. This is a benefit to banks, right? They would like to find a way to do this. This will decrease their risk, increase their earnings, let them create shareholder value, let them delight their clients. They have 1 billion customers. They have corporations. They need to serve them. All of these companies, all of these nonprofits, they all need the bank to support what they do. Right? And in time they will. The nonprofits are also going to benefit. They want to raise capital, but also they have endowments. They want their endowments to go up 40% a year, not go up 4% a year. Right? There's nobody running a church, a charity, a benefit, a school that'll say, we don't want our endowment to appreciate and we don't want an endowment. This allows them to harness technology. This allows them to extend their reach globally. You know, Bitcoin is money that's global, and it's got a half-life of forever. All of these endowments, they're using money that has a half-life of 10 years or 5 years. Your property might have a half-life of 20 years. Their investments are short duration, and their investments are local, right? Their property is local. So Bitcoin stretches your scope across time and space. Now tell me, what charitable pursuit doesn't want to do more and last forever? They all do, right? You won't find anyone that says, well, we just want to be out of business in 3 years. So Bitcoin's the solution to nonprofits. And for governments, Traditionally, people have thought, well, the government doesn't like or won't embrace Bitcoin, but they will embrace Bitcoin because Bitcoin provides them with the financial power to thrive in the 21st century. And there's no government on earth that doesn't appreciate the power of money, right? This will allow them to lower taxes. It will allow them to strengthen their currencies, defend their sovereignty, improve their economies, join the global community, and delight their citizens. And if you talk to any politician, there's none of them that will say these aren't agenda items for them. And if you say, well, could you achieve that with infinite money? They'd say, well, I don't know if I could achieve it, but it would make it a lot easier, right? And if you said, well, how about if I just took all your money away from you in 5 years? Would that make it easier or harder? And the answer is, it would make it somewhere between hard and impossible.
Michael Saylor talks on the significant effects that the adoption of Bitcoin will have on different organizations, highlighting the longer lifetime that it provides for businesses, banks, charities, and governments. Saylor advises bringing up the possibility of their company surviving for decades or even centuries by avoiding bankruptcy and carrying on with excellent customer service when pitching CEOs on the concept of implementing Bitcoin. He draws a comparison between the lifespan of firms and universities, explaining the discrepancy by saying that traditional company models lack a resilient capital structure. Saylor sees a move toward Bitcoin for banks, which will strengthen and prevent them from collapsing. Banks might increase their stability and reduce the dangers associated with existing systems by utilizing the Bitcoin network. This change would be advantageous to the banks as well as their wide range of customers, which includes businesses and charitable organizations. Saylor highlights how Bitcoin extends its reach beyond time and space by drawing a comparison between it and traditional investments in buildings, which are localized and have a limited lifespan. Saylor says there are a lot of benefits for nonprofits using Bitcoin. They are able to generate funds, value endowments, and use technology to reach a worldwide audience. Unlike traditional nonprofit investments, which have a limited lifespan and are localized, Bitcoin is everlasting and appreciates in value. Saylor shows governments who are typically thought to be hesitant to accept Bitcoin as possible winners. According to him, Bitcoin gives countries the financial clout they need to prosper in the 21st century. This involves having the capacity to cut taxes, bolster national currencies, protect national sovereignty, enhance economies, and interact with the international community. Saylor contends that no government can deny the transformational potential of money, and he makes the argument that politicians would admit the benefits of having unrestricted resources at their disposal to further their goals. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this. Until next time, happy investing.